Ladies and gentlemen, next we have a very, very interesting session, a session that you shouldn't be missing because we are going to talk about finance. It's going to be a fireside chat, but to introduce the speaker to you, we have a very eminent personality amongst us. He's a senior partner of Varma and Varma. Put your hands together to welcome Mr. Vivek Govind, the past president of Kerala Management Association.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. President Nirmala, Convention Chair ABK, and my dear friends. It gives me immense pleasure and pride to be here, just standing in this grand stage, watching a full house at a KMA convention, which we are holding after a gap of almost 3 years. And at the outset, let me once again, acknowledge and thank all of you for being here and celebrating this convention with all of us. Absolute joy to introduce the moderator of the session, Mr. Anu Tiwari. Let me quickly run you through a brief profile of Mr. Tiwari. Anu Tiwari is the partner of Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas, which is the leading legal law firm in the country. They have offices in all the large cities, and he's also the co-head of the fintech vertical of Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas. Anu has represented many Indian and multinational banks, asset management and fintech companies on transactional, enforcement and regulatory matters. He is an alumnus of the reputed NUJS in Kolkata, and he's also a visiting faculty at his alma mater, apart from also being a visiting faculty at SP Jain and NMIMS Law School in Bangalore, apart from various other institutions. He also works very closely with RBI, CII, and many other industry bodies in various committees and subcommittees of these bodies. He has been recognized with several awards and recognitions, including the Lawyer of the Year in India for Blockchain and Cryptocurrency, Financial Regulatory and M&A by the Corporate International Global Awards 2022. So I think it's a great honor and privilege for us that we have Anu Tiwari here. He will formally be introducing all the other speakers to you. So with these words, may I invite you, Anu, to kindly come on stage, and also invite you and team to open an office in Kerala sometime soon. We would be happy to have Cyril Amarchand in Kerala sometime soon. Over to you, Anu.
A very good evening, everyone. Last panel at any session is, you're being set up to fail because attention spans are always low. People are counting their time to the airport. So we thought, what better than to have a stellar panel with us on a topic which is equally relevant, which is role of next generation communication in financial services. So our panelists are firstly Mr. Bharat Panchal. He is the Chief Risk Officer with Discover Financial Services and also the architect of risk framework of UPI. He'll be joined with Mr. Thomas Muthoot John, who heads strategy at One Muthoot. Mr. Jones George, who's the Executive Director, Geojit Financial. And lastly, Mr. Karthik Ramamurthy, who leads Enterprise Business Development at AWS. One of our panelists himself is missing. Firstly, thank you to our esteemed panelists and to the audience. And we hope to keep you engaged with some very interesting anecdotes and discussions because each one of the panelists wears a very different hat and sits very differently in the financial services value chain. At least personally, when I got this topic, my worry was how will we keep firstly the panel and the audience engaged for an hour? Because communication in financial services, not like financial services, is as exciting as healthcare or the other topics. Then I was reminded that the word bank actually comes from the word bench in 11th and 12th century, where the Medici family, Normandy and Florence would set up benches in the street where one could go and convert currency and take loan. And that did not change. It's a way to communicate with your banker, financer. And that interestingly did not change till 1967 when Barclays started with the ATMs. So almost 800 years of no change in communication with your banker. And in India, the ATM revolution came in 90s with IVR, with voice banking, home banking, led to app banking, chatbot, NRL, NRP versus the other option we were discussing. And now we have chat GPT, words like metaverse, various other terms. So if you see the change in communication in the financial services, it's been like a hockey stick. The last 10 years in particular, but even 20 years. So 800 years of dealing physically with a banker who would have a lunch break, which means you had to go first half or second half. And now you have 24/7 banking, with IMPS, UPI, various other features. So let me just start with a general question for everybody here. That how are you seeing communication change and how do you see the customer profile changing, Quark communication, both on B2C and B2B?
Yeah, it's very interesting that you brought up the history of how the World Bank was termed. Our industry not too long ago was much like that. Not that I remember, I wasn't born at the time, but maybe 3 decades ago, stock market operated what they call the open outcry system, which I have only heard of, but I'm sure the senior colleagues of mine would have experienced it, where transactions were executed by dealers on the floor of a stock exchange. From that, today, as an organization, we are doing 80% of our business online. So we've seen how communication has changed incredibly from an only physical business dealings 3 decades ago to largely online-only business models today. If you look at the industry as a whole, across the country, we have huge presence in online-only business as well as the offline business. So as a communication medium, there's definitely been a big change, a sea change, and there is no looking back. This is going to continue. However, there might be different business models that we'll see coming up that can cater to an omni-channel time of day.
I think when you take up the communication over the last couple of years, we shouldn't look at too long back, just 5 years or 2 years back, things were totally different. So I think the communication is happening and it's going to happen going forward, couple of minutes, couple of seconds. So it needs to keep changing on what the customer needs. So I think what I see drastically changing is on more the organization pushing a product than a customer demanding a product. So it's moving to a stage where customer is on demand, the product is being offered to. And like for example, for us, the platform should be ready to provide that service or else you lose that customer. And losing a customer right now is as good as losing him forever and as good as losing a business. Yeah.
And Mr. Panchal, especially having revolutionized the way we send money through UPI, which now at least one cannot imagine going back to a day where NEFT, RTGS, even though they've become a lot faster and better since then. Your thoughts?
Well, thank you very much. Yesterday we all celebrated the birth date of Swami Vivekananda. He was the only person who predicted way back about 150 or 200 years ago that 21st century belongs to India. And this is not too much to say that he was absolutely right. Because in this century, 21st century when we started, there were 2 big revolutions happened in our country. The first revolution, I believe it was the telecom revolution. Late industrialist Dhirubhai Ambani said, "Kar lo duniya muthi mein," your world is in your hand. Today, isn't it a reality? Everything is on your fingertips. Everything. Just even with ChatGPT, even your knowledge also, it is on your fingertips. So that is the power of communication. But when I look back those days when the tele-density of our country was just 7 per 100, people used to wait for years and years to get a landline at your home. Today, if we tell all this to our kids, they will laugh at us that what are you telling us, right? But from that how generously uses of existing technology, what we made in financial sector, I think that's another revolution, I would say, because not only UPI, but whole set of product what we have witnessed as a part of the financial service, right from NFS to the UPI and FASTag. But in 10 years' time, when we launch interoperability of all the ATM across country, about 250,000 ATMs, we used to clock only 2 million transactions a day. I'm talking about ATM transaction. There was no other product. Today, UPI alone is in billions. I'm not counting rest of the product. So, the power of communication has changed the society drastically, and with added advantage like the lot of fintech are rolling out their services using the communication, using the fintech rail what we have developed in a country. I think that is what is building the nation for the coming generation.
Mr. Ramurthy, especially you being the only, so to speak, unlicensed player here, everybody else, card network to securities to central bank, being the equivalent of a critical infrastructure services provider to the entire ecosystem. I mean, all the solutions on communication start here and then get absorbed by the other three. Opening thoughts?
Yeah. Hello. So, happy New Year to all, and thank you for the question. So, as AWS, I'm thinking this on two dimensions, right? The anecdote you brought up, right? How a telegraph line from, I think, New York to London revolutionized the stock market, right? In AWS, we have built a massive infrastructure starting in 2006 with 30 regions and 96 zones, and we're covering a lot more. And what we have done is, thanks to the, the power of networking today, the whole world is in the power of a developer, be it a data scientist or a developer sitting in a large corporate or a student. So many students here trying to develop wonderful projects. I've collaborated with students in universities doing wonderful projects. So the power of computing, the power of a global reach of a startup, because the ability to use cloud, which is all the regions are interconnected on a private backbone, that power as a platform with all the solutions is help enabling innovation in all spheres. Sticking with financial services as a platform, it's enabling, like you said, fintechs. 90% of the fintechs use us, and the way they're able to innovate and help customers in all phases, be it on the front end, ability to transact better, or even at a governmental level, right? The way we were talking about how when the pandemic times, the government launched the COVID portal, right? And it helped reach. So the power of the cloud in bridging the divide, right? So that it plays a big part, and we're happy to be part of that. Though we do not have a financial product to offer, happy to be the platform that powers the verticals. Thank you.
So, changing gears, Mr. Ramurthy, let me start with you. The backbone to communication always is, either person to person or a piece of paper, or then you get into technology, voice or different. So what type of projects do you think will enable, so industry generally, there is no common standard. You would have a certain way of communicating, interacting with a customer, you would have a different way. Securities market is very different compared to how one interacts with so how you talk to a trader is different from how you talk to a borrower or a deposit holder for that matter, because risk is different. So fee-based versus coupon income delta. How do you see the tools and the projects evolving to help both B2C, B2B businesses communicate effectively with their customers and stakeholders?
My observation is that at one level, if you look at a customer, right, he's become very, very demanding, right? The expectation of a customer to close a transaction or any service, get a loan approval or get a response, even a web page loading, the time it takes to load is so sensitive about it, right? And even a complete, let's talk financial transactions, right? The various steps that happen in a financial transaction, and so many parties involved in a financial ecosystem, fintechs, credit scorers and all that, and that has to happen at such a speed. So the applications that are built, right, the API ecosystems, the underlying messaging system. So I think that plays an important part and how that is architected. So that is one layer we try to help our customers. The other thing is leave alone the whole infra, what is the plumbing behind the technology. On the front end, we see that customers expect the companies to see them as one. We call it customer 360, right? So that is powering a whole lot of digital transformation where companies are trying to present one view, right? I have multiple lines of business. I have insurance, I have mutual funds, and I have give loans of different types. Very few companies have successfully developed this one 360. It's all a buzzword for long, but setting a platform so that they know, like, I'm talking to you, what is your worth of business to me? What is your total share of wallet or whatever I'm getting, right? So that's something is a big scope, right? And that encompasses a lot of stuff. I'm not getting the underlying, what are the tools required to come to that level, right? But I think that, in my view, is, I'm excited about that part of it.
That actually brings us to a very interesting, so there is always an opportunity with risk. I don't think ever in the history anything new has come without a risk to it. And especially now for financial services businesses, and this group, this audience can think about their banking experience. Firstly, you never want to do monoline financial services, be it banking or investing or any other, insurance, pension. Super app, this word has been thrown around so often. Everybody is looking at integrating various types of products into one. So, Thomas, for you, one Muthoot clearly signifies bringing all into one. So, communication, if it is not face-to-face or over paper, which was the bank bench 800 years, and then I don't think anybody in this audience likes to call up a call center. It's not the most happy experience from 1, 2, 3, 4, and recently I had to get a booking cancelled, and after half an hour, I did not know what I'm doing talking to that person. So chatbots, things have become better. But what risks do you see? And risk is not a frustration of talking to somebody on the phone through phone banking, but with the new age ways of communicating, what risks do you see maybe coming, which, again, not the regulator, but businesses themselves need to be mindful of with new ways of communicating?
For example, for us, it comes from a background of the branch business. So the communication has been very clear and straightforward. Now, because it's the customer who's demanding the non-branch or the digital aspect, there is a lot of frameworks which AWS and people like that have built around it. And moreover, as a regulated entity, we'll have structures in the whole process, including the KYCs and all that, which will cover all the risks which would rise from possible, crises and all that. But I'm not saying that there are issues where the risk could come up. But coming to your first point on the customer, you had that problem of not having the access to these things. So that's where we feel that the branch network of ours will automatically work in parallel. So hence the word phygital. And especially in a country like India, where, as we were talking earlier, on places where there are no access to even electricity, that's where the branch would interact with the customer and educate them with possible technology support and communication support, and educate them that the future is going this way, and be there when it's needed. More importantly, if the customer wants still going to the branch is more important, that's his
right.
Need. So having an omni-channel presence is the way forward, is what we feel. And the buzzword of super app just doesn't stop there. It is about not just providing one person's product, it's about providing multiple other lenders, other saving products, all that, giving the customer. So here again, I emphasize the point that the customer is the king. If he wants to have a savings product, he can get it from somebody else in the same platform. So the ecosystem which you build around it is important. And it's not my customer or Jones' customer, it's our customer. So that's more important there.
So I'll press further
Yeah.
on this point. So the only worry a bank or a broker or anybody in the financial services value chain who would have with a completely physical process is individual fraud. My chest may be taken away by the branch manager, or accounting mismatch, which is very human error. Now in technology, the types of errors are increasing, right? So what, and all this also is for you Jones, what gives you sleepless nights in terms of the new way? I mean, there's one, and Karthik and I were discussing yesterday, there's a quote that every company is the bank head of a bank said that I am a technology company with a banking license. Right? I'm not even getting into the big tech or the fintech or the bank at some level. Everybody's trying to see how to digitize themselves, which also which results for the regulator risk of online theft, cyber incident, online hacking. When we do these projects, it's a bit mind-boggling to realize that people don't even know at what level the pipe has been breached. Even to discover takes forensic, and even after that, it's not easy. So, question to both of you: one wearing an RBI hat and one a SEBI hat in terms of risk. Not to comment on them. What gives you sleepless nights, given in your position from a tech standpoint?
See, for an app, definitely for sure, there needs to be a security framework which should be in place, and that's an investment altogether. So that's compulsory for us, being a regulated entity, and investing in it almost, not completely, but almost 90% of it is, 90% is very optimistic, but 90% of it is controlled and structured. But there are instances of the world is turning, in all ways, and we are going on the 5G's negatives that it could, there are possibilities of, nation powers using technologies and manpower to kind of tackle with ransomwares and all these, the buzzwords are many. But it's all about the communicating your employees, the customer, and the management as well, that possible risks are humongous, and investing in the right technologies which could block it, which could prevent it, which could mitigate it is important. And that's where I think from a platform perspective, we have invested in the right amount of technologies, but it's not enough. We need to invest and keep investing on it.
So I recall one dialogue with a regulator where it was about usual data, system audit report, data localization type concepts, because data is the theme which, of course, we'll touch upon briefly later. And the statement was interesting. It was firstly, the first part of the conversation was about cryptocurrencies. Somebody asked the gentleman a question and the counter was, what's wrong with gold? But that's more on a side note. But on this topic, the response was that you can guarantee the system sanctity, security only at this moment. Everybody can confirm right now I'm secure, next moment you don't know. Which at least to a layperson, to a lawyer who clearly didn't like science and maths much, which is why law, it didn't make sense to me. So any comments on how does it work, and especially Shramurthy, given your perspective as to why is it that, at least to me as an outsider, it baffles that systems cannot be secure.
I like to think that ultimately anything that's built by man can be broken by man. So I don't think there's any kind of you look at the great cybersecurity or anti attack technologies that's available. It's all deployed or created from something that we know. But there are often many of these new threats, new kinds of attack are all new technologies which we are not familiar with. So building for something that we don't know, I'm not sure if that's going to be a foolproof attempt. So I guess I do believe that the colleague that mentioned to you that we are only secure, until this moment. What happens the next moment, we may not be familiar. But when you speak of risk, right, there are different kinds of risk. There are all these theft and fraud and cyber attacks. But there are also other different kinds of risks that arise from technology errors, from human errors. So those are all things that's in our hand, which we can actually control. If you look at our industry, there have been several instances across the country where different platforms, different exchanges, all of them had some sort of a bandwidth throttling issue, and the whole system went down. Then there are other instances where orders are punched in, or rather erroneous orders are punched in by the system itself. So these are risks that which are within our control, and that's the kind of risk that we want to mitigate using these new generational technologies. When we speak of 5G, the expectation is that 5G can deliver 10, 20 times more bandwidth than 4G and its predecessors. So with such kind of technology, we can ensure that there is no bandwidth issue, and also reduce the kind of latency. So we have we have offices besides our online platforms where orders are punched in by the dealers. There is a huge time criticality there because the exchange is located in Mumbai and our branch could be either in Kanyakumari or in Srinagar. There is a latency effect there which can affect the transaction. And in stock market, everything is time critical. And every second counts, so much so that people try to co-locate servers next to the exchange. So these kind of risks are what we are hoping new generational technologies would help mitigate.
Actually, Jones, unknowingly our seating is fund-based businesses on this side and the solution providers on this side. So let me ask you, is this because, are there solutions available? I mean, blockchain, immutable digital DLT, right? So is it that, and of course there'll be risks with any new technology, there's always been. Are these manageable risks? Is it that businesses haven't found the right solutions? Is it that the regulators haven't come up the curve because industry is always running ahead and regulations world over always catch up? There's so many areas on this. And especially, Mr. Panchal, given your experience having created such a unique product, UPI is transformational. US Congress has referred to it, DOJ has referred to it. So your thoughts on the risks around technology and communication in financial services?
Well, we as a country, I think we are blessed with not having legacy in technology. And those who are from technocrats who can understand well that if there is no legacy in technology, then it's a virgin land where you can, build the best in class technology. And that's what the great example of UPI, what you have enjoyed so far. Because there was no benchmark, there was no legacy. We just created out of thought how we can make the life easy and convenient for every fellow Indian. And that's where we succeeded. But there are banks, there are financial institutions, those who are forced to remain in the bandwagon of the technology change. And therefore, they are running ambassador, old 1950s ambassador, and now they're forced to embed a feature of BMW and Mercedes in that vehicle. It is not possible. And that is what the biggest problem today, where those who are the best, they're highly, in class. Those who are not, they are far behind. So that brings lot of conversion issue. Because when we are talking of use of technology, be it healthcare, be it financial technology or anything else, the speed and interoperability are two major parameters. Because, let's say for example, if you want to enroll a customer and offer 2-minute, instant loan, not everything you are doing your own, right? Because you are many players among this 2-minute transaction. There are network, there are aggregator, payment gateway, the CBL comes, so many players comes and they play their own role within 2 minutes of that, stated time. Are every player playing at the same speed? That's the fundamental issue today. Because you all are in the land of gods. I come from land of Mahalakshmi. So we are well rich people. We have no issue about infrastructure. But there are people, there are cities, there are areas, there are states where you will not find the same 5G speed at what you are enjoying today. Because you know what is happening. With the moment you are, go out of the town or city, there is hardly signal available. So I popularly say that let's not think about the people of India, those who are in this room. 20% people are living in India. Let's think about the 80% people living in Bharat. How we can converge, how we can give the technology, sustainable technology, without differentiating between India and Bharat. That is another challenge what we have. The third challenge about the use of newer technology and usability and sustainability of that. Why UPI is so much successful today? Because as a fundamental or the principle, what we decided that let us not engage customer too much in security. Because the moment you engage customer in security, they will come under fear. Because whether to do or not, whether, why it took many years to, get the mobile banking or NEFT so much so popular? Why it wasn't earlier, before UPI born? Because we kept them away from the security while ensuring there is security. Now, with all responsibility, let me say that India is the blessed country, the most sophisticated, most resilient and most secure payment network infrastructure anywhere in the world. Believe me. However, what you are talking about, the security and fraud and other issue, many of in this room must have fallen prey of the fraudster. You might have lost your money. You might have, either not you, some of your relatives must have lost your money. Guarantee you that 70% of fraud happening in our country just out of greed. There is absolutely no technical issue. There is absolutely no glitch at the bank side or payment gateway or anywhere. It is purely out of psychological issue what we as an Indian, the moment something is offered free, we are ready to get it at any cost while you are getting something free. So that is 70%. The 10% of issue out of fear, because the moment someone say your account is going to be blocked, your mobile SIM card is going to be blocked, you cannot afford without these two today, right? Third is the ignorance. Hardly 5 to 7% of issues today out of all fraud, whatever we have seen, are happening out of technical. Other are not at all a technical issue. So that's another point I just wanted to touch upon. And lastly, we are talking about the interoperability, the security and penetration of the financial services. I think India has, again, I was listening to earlier panelists talking about the scale of economy. You will not find such a vast, segment of consumer anywhere in the world, because, 1.23 billion mobile phone putting hundred of million of data footprint every day in the system. Where we are using that scale. I mean, when you come to DBT, where communication play a major role. And I was discussing with you also that you all are passionate about UPI. I'm more passionate about DBT, because look at how the communication has played a very significant role for the betterment of the society. Because imagine that during the pandemic, if there was no UPI, no DBT, no bank transfer, how we would have distributed the kind of social support from the government sector to the end user of the society. Because though there were money, though there were people, those who are waiting for that money, but there's no distribution channel, there's no supply chain management, because humans were missing. Humans were not at all available to give that money to him. The second point, or second very popular statement by late Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, that when we send 1 rupee from Delhi, the moment it reached to the end user or end beneficiary, it became 15 paisa. Where the 85 paisa was going, everybody knew. Now everything is tapped. That's the beauty of communication, beauty of technology, and how successfully use of technology for the betterment of the society. This is the best example, from the banking and the financial sector point of view.
So Karthik, I want to just press this point because it's a very interesting chain of thought Mr. Panchal has started. So just give me 2 minutes, I'll just come to you and some interesting question for you on that one. So Mr. Panchal, what you talked about is very, so I had read somewhere that Apple has this concept called idiot premium. Your iPhone has to be so intuitive, so simple that it is not created for sophisticated. It is created for the LCM. Now, in the last 2 to 3 years, and this is my lawyer speaking in this space, one has seen the regulator come up with so many changes that they want to eliminate bad luck. You know, what you talked about, money theft, people not reading, taking calls, giving access to any desk to thieves, right? So data, if you see, they've come out with so many changes where data cannot leave a licensed player. Be it against card issuers, issuing side, and the network side, the 7th September last year circular. Payment aggregation, again, not sure how many in the audience may be aware of it, but when one engages a payment aggregator, now the data is not supposed to leave the aggregator. Banks have a confidentiality charter. SEBI, there's a big confidentiality, and this is not consent. It doesn't say but with consent. It says keep it confidential, full stop. So unless I give my data with you to Mr. Panchal, you don't have a consent of mine, which is taking out the idiot premium, i.e. I don't know what I'm clicking logic. Do you think there's anything else? Because faith in the system, and especially with new tools coming up, new problems will come up. What could the regulator do further? Again, more constructively to give comfort, and you rightly said, it's not this room. Rarely, I mean, this room is more sophisticated. But chauffeurs, maids, tier 3, 4 cities where TikTok has reached rampantly, and now with 5G, banking will reach. What can the regulators do to ensure a big blowout doesn't happen?
Well, so as far as data is concerned, it's my personal opinion, and though it is a very bold statement, we are heading toward the third colonization. The first colonization was Silk Route, where India, Sone ki Chidiya, was taken away, status by the perpetrators, and India was, kept behind the whole progress. The second colonization was British era. We all have seen the impact of that British colony so far. Third would be data colonization, if not taken extreme care right now. Why I'm saying so? While the world was fighting with the pandemic, and we all have seen the bad part of that, one good thing happened during that part, that the large part of the society was brought in, online segment, where those who were not even using any technology so far, they were learning educational series on, their laptop or, the electronic gadget, and now they, be it TikTok or be it Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever you say, but they are now alive, they are now be part of the whole ecosystem of the technology. With that, what happened, that India has become the richest nation in the world in terms of data. Now, let me give a different angle to this. Many of you are connected with the Gulf, because Kochi and Gulf has direct connection. So there is a say in the Gulf that whosoever possesses more camel, he will be the sheikh of that area. In the digital desert, whosoever possesses more data, he will be the king. Now, take this clue from Indian context. You are paying, sorry, I'm using Amazon. Amazon know what type of thing what you want to buy. What kind of interest you have on Facebook? What kind of social circuit you want to build? What kind of political thought process you have, be it left side or right is, Twitter knows it. How are you going to stop that in terms of the use of similar information against the fellow Indian? I think that is where the big blow is needed. Data protection bill and right to privacy is much needed at this point of time. If we miss this bus right now, we are at the era, you, me, my kids, and the future generation are of the era at no point of return in terms of use of technology, in terms of social media and any available communication method to be used. It will become a third colonization which will never ever be retracted. That's a bold statement, probably. I think the regulator and the policymaker are thinking.
I think now we have gotten the audience woken up. Mr. Amurthy, your counter to this, and one personal request. Can you explain to this panel and everyone, what is banking in metaverse? As a tool of communicating, because given all the various sound bites.
Okay, I'll start with the earlier response to the question on, it's about risk security, right? I'll talk about it. So, in AWS, we always start security with the the statement. It's kind of mandatory to start with the statement. Security is a shared responsibility model, okay? And why we say that is we are a platform player, right? We give you all the building blocks for you to run your applications, whatever you're trying to serve your customers. So customers own the security in the, off the cloud. We own what is below the hypervisor and below. So that distinction will be very clear. And the responsibility for the cloud provider increases if we move towards the SaaS model, right? So that's to be very clear. Because there are certain misconceptions. Oh, I'm running on AWS or XYZ cloud provider, you are supposed to take care of my security. No, right? We're giving you all the tools, mechanisms, frameworks, monitoring, alerting, remediation, auto-remediation, everything you can, right? And we talked about the unknown fears. I know I'm safe today, what about tomorrow? So from our bit, what we have done with what we have been in the industry from 2006, so we have created enough artifacts, white papers on best practice in security. We have clearly defined it, right? Security pillar, we call it well architected, as a guidance mechanism. But can we assure nothing will happen? I mean, that's a question, it's tough to answer, but at least you can get alerted quicker. You can respond better. You can remediate better, right? Basically, security is all about protecting. I mean, you're just trying to fence it and, reduce your risk. You can never say I've made it a zero risk. So that's about it. And we are there to help our customers who want to secure it, right? Keeping that apart. He reduced my burden by 70-80% by saying, look, it's all greed and ignorance, and put it on all the human vices. So the technology problem shrunk, and in that I'm taking only under 50% of it, so it's a smaller problem. Metaverse and banking, see, metaverse is like, in my view, I've been to a lot of presentations, I've seen a lot of metaverse. In fact, there's one customer in my city who even did a wedding in metaverse. He presented to us in our club, and he was our customer.
One should do it, because you don't know if it's legitimate marriage or not. So
yeah, no, it was
more confusion on.
Basically, the guests were, avatars and metaverse. They even got stalls from corporates and all that. They got sponsorship also. So I was like amazed at it. And there were like a lot of dirty jokes after that. Don't ask me what happened after that. Like, when they presented to us about a wedding in metaverse, then everyone was like, okay, what? Okay, okay. So, see, metaverse, in my view, from what I've understood, is there have been already a lot of technologies, right? There have been AR, VR, artificial reality, virtual reality. There have been all kinds of stuff. So they just taken that, combined that, and then they've created one layer on top of it, right? And the world always wants one new buzzword, right? There's an old buzzword, they get tired of it. 3 years back, if you go to any conference, there have been some buzzword. Now, one new thing comes up and then appropriates the attributes of this, adds and the 30% more, and then gives it a new term. So it is to be seen, like, we can never wish away and say anything is thing. We just have to wait. It's one more way to communicate, one more way to engage people in a more active way. It's interesting, but nobody can comment. Just like ChatGPT, like we don't know what's the future of it, right? So
no,
I'll reserve my comments on it.
That's a Google-Amazon conflict. So so just for the audience's benefit, ChatGPT is owned by the Google.
No, it's invested heavily by Microsoft. Yeah.
Sorry, Microsoft. My bad. Let me just shift gears to Jones on this. Given how different securities world tends to be, and I'm conscious we are generalizing the conversation also. Securities world is more execution, more brokerage. It is less of customer service, unlike, say, lending, for example, or payments, because it's more a checkout finance tool. Are you thinking a lot of this is So is there a delta for this conversation, this topic, for a SEBI-regulated entity, given how that world works compared to how, say, how you would have seen in UPI, because it's a very different product, right? Or how you would have seen, because that universe is very different.
Okay, see, I understand why, stockbroking or, equity market trading, it is very transactional, no doubt. Brokerage is the main income. But there is a whole different element when it comes to customer service. See, if we were just building a platform for someone to transact in, then you're right, there is no real need of customer service. Rather, it takes a different form, actually. It becomes digital experience. So that, there was a study, I think it came up in one of the MIT Sloan case studies, that people tend to trust, in a digital world, a platform that gives the best digital experience that replaces the trust in physical world with the human being. But in our case, in the case of Geojit, we, right from the initial days, we were not, we are a broker, but we were never, and we still don't encourage speculation. So we have about 80% of our clients are investors and long-term investors, for whom customer service is extremely critical. And we, I use this word, I heard Thomas also use this word earlier, omni-channel. That is a huge, right now that is at the core of our business. Our objective when we do, we want to create the best platforms, we continue to create the best platforms, but not once has any of us thought about, how that can replace a human relationship. We don't want that. We continue to invest in branches. We continue to develop physical office spaces so that we can create, that relationship and that customer servicing, if at all required, can be taken care of by a physical office. Our digital platforms exist only for, for executing those transactions. Now, your second question was regarding regulation.
Right.
So, regulations, so this, you asked earlier about how, regulators should be, or what they can do to encourage, participation in the market. Often across the world, there is a tendency from regulators to respond, in a knee-jerk reaction that fixes the problem, the immediate problem, but then long-term consequences, may or may not be there. Ideally, what regulators should be doing is to put themselves in the shoes of a customer and see how a customer sees, sees that particular product or goes through that experience. In the Indian context, all three regulators have been quite receptive. They've built IT sandboxes for any of us to play around with. So they've been quite supportive, but there are still things that I feel they can do more that can encourage innovation, thereby bringing more participation.
So, George, let me ask a counter on this. It's a very interesting topic because the hat one wears on this side is very different on this topic compared to you and you, sir, as well. In the last 2 or 3 years, wealth tech has come up as a category in financial services. And before that, securities was a humdrum world. It's a scale, volume, quite like payments. Margins were wafer thin. Then a few players came who made it zero margin, stopped taking VC money, bootstrapped, and they have now become poster boys. And rightly so, for that matter. Then one hears about social investing. It's a term where a lot of players are coming in. Influencer, and regulators are looking at this like we discussed. Do you think, from a business model standpoint, communication is not as important as, say, maybe in your business? Of course, in your business, it's very much important. And Thomas, clearly in your business, it is the whole digital lending revolution. If you see the fintech and financial services revolution has been on the RBI side. Come to think of it, right? SEBI side, it's been very different. So, do you think this is not that relevant a theme? And if not, or if it is, then how do you see it evolving going forward?
No, I think it's extremely important. See, like I said earlier, 3 decades ago, we were dealing, everything was in human form, shaking hands. Today, everything is online, and it will continue to be so. That we will see several different wealth, tech, and other offline only wealth managers also coming up in India. See, another statistic that's actually not a lot of people look at is a large, significant chunk of mutual fund investments in India today are driven by independent financial advisors who do not form part of any brand, any group, or any broker. They're just independent entities. They often, until recently, were now it's licensed. But otherwise, there could be your tax consultants, people like those who could facilitate investments. So it takes different shape and form. There will be many such mediums and communication. But one thing, important, what happened with the advent of digital is that it's given rise to new business models. So there are companies, as you mentioned, who are digital only, who have, significantly been able to scale up, bootstrap, and do everything online only. But there are also, again, huge growth in the IFA market segment, where it has only been offline. There are no platforms, there is no interaction. The only interaction is over a phone call. So there are different business models that's come up, and the whole Indian market, if you take capital market participation, is only 3%. So the potential is huge, and I think there is opportunity for the different business models to thrive in India.
Actually, just to
just to add to Jones's point, I think both of us are from a legacy background. I think more importantly, this business model word is not that somebody who's a fintech or a wealth tech should come out with. And that's where I wanted to add the point. See, even legacy players can come out. For example, Bajaj Finserv is the best example you can give. It's a legacy company which is right at the top of the pyramid right now in a fintech space. And a lot of the fintechs aspire to become a Bajaj Finserv. See, that's more important there, where the business model shouldn't be from a fintech or a new player in the market. In any of the segment, it should be also considered from the legacy business. And that, to add to the regulatory question, is that RBI is promoting it through their RBIH, which is the innovation hub, which they have started, and incubating these advices and technologies through legacy businesses. And more importantly, I think taking again the one Muthoot aspect to it here is that, see, it's not that it is necessary right now, but it will be necessary maybe 10 years down the line, where business models have to change. The competitor right now may not be the competitor 10 years down the line. So the business models have to be reassigned and redesigned as you go, and 5G or 4G, as you go back, in India, we jumped from 2G to 5G, 4G, sorry. And the 4G to 5G jump is quite short for us. And more importantly, the jump will promote and also disrupt new business models. And it should, as we are sitting in a management meeting, we should understand that it has to come from both legacy businesses and entrepreneurs and startups, etc. Thank you.
Actually, Thomas, given the benefit of having you on the panel, because where you sit in the ecosystem as a business, you see it from very different lens. And I'll come to Mr. Panchal, you also on this question, because this is wider than, just the topic. What is the future of finance? At some level, we all, I think, at least personally, I've never seen this industry in such a flux, positively, not in negatively, positively, as it has been right now. So governance is a big point. That is a theme. I mean, we are seeing the regulator, the supervision role. So just for the audience, regulators have a regulation function and supervision. Regulation is take the license. Supervision is, conduct. It's a bit of a father-mother load. The regulation department is more father, the mother is the supervision department. So what do you see the future of finance? And it's a broad question. Where do you see, if after say 3 years you're having this discussion, right? How do you think the world of finance would have changed? Because there is a digital assets revolution which ties in so well, without getting into the legality or the business, FTX, those things leaving aside. It's something which fits so well with securities market world. At some level, bankers want to process payments for digital assets, but they're not sure about regulators. Gaming as an industry, and these are use cases for financial services. At some level, it helps you expand. So, in a nutshell, where do you see the future of finance?
See, I can drop many buzzwords like blockchain and all that. I think what I see with 5G coming in and the future of finance is the amalgamation of all this into a higher platform. So I feel that is going to happen, including UPI and all other-based thing. I think through that, we'll have a much larger financial inclusion possibility going down to, as Sir said, to the Bharat.
Right.
And that's where the real disruption should happen. And as our branch businesses are more focused onto the Bharat's population, we want to see that kind of a revolution happen with an amalgamation of, say, so many things from the data platforms to the analytics which goes into it, into understanding the customer, what is his need, what is his capabilities, and also pitch to the demands of the customer and preempt not just lending, insurance, savings, whatever. So that's the whole concept. But if you ask me, I'm jumping into a question I'm not thinking in the 3 years. Let's think about 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Will currency be relevant? Is a bigger question.
CBDC.
Yeah.
Correct. I think there was somebody said that banking will be there, but there won't be banks. I think we are at the verge of that because look, the Google Pay is much bigger than any bank or Phone Pay for that matter, right? But the another issue is that look, what banks are doing or financial institutions are doing, they are doing their conventional business of finance, but at the same time, they're also competing with the IT companies because they are spending time, energy, effort, and management power to manage their technology. That is what is taking their business in different tangents.
Yes, so that's a very good anecdote, and that's where I could add the whole concept of One Muthoot was that we had to invest in technology, and we are predominantly known as a gold loan company, but now the aspiration of the organization is to be known as a fintech or a technology-based NBFC. And aspirations obviously come from, there are so many other stories which you could tell across the world and India also. But the aspect of using the right technology and using the technology to reach the last mile customer. Yeah, for the right purpose. And more importantly, see, for example, right now, as you said, sir, there are places where 5Gs and all these technology won't work, and we have customers at that base.
Not even 5G or 4G or 3G. There are villages or part of pocket of this country where electricity itself is a novelty for them. They have not seen power. They have not seen electricity. Forget about...
Sir, if you go to Andamans, there's no telephone connection itself is a bigger problem there.
Well, literacy, I think we all forget literacy is today. I mean, I recall my back then great-grandmothers, that generation, not just that generation, many of the staff, house help are not completely read-write. So there is an inbuilt fear, and the whole fraud we were talking about. if I do not know, if I only know 3 steps and I get asked the 4th question, I don't know what to do, I will be subject matter of fraud. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, regarding the future of finance, see, I think as far as technology is concerned, there's huge potential coming up. The creation of the account aggregator framework, it's basically a joint venture of the IRDAI, SEBI, and the RBI put together. So all 3 regulators sat together, decided that, we've created UPI for transactions. Let's create, a platform only for aggregating data, information, and seamlessly passing it between entities regulated by these regulators. That will have a huge change in the way financial transactions are done going forward. When you look at lending, CIBIL played a big score. Originally when it came up, it gave a level of comfort to lenders. Today or in the future, lenders can look at several different aspects of an individual using the account aggregator framework. It can be their equity investments, it can be their mutual fund investments, it can be their national pension scheme investments, it can be their insurance policies. So there are huge opportunities there because data is going to seamlessly flow between one entity to another entity, just like UPI did for payments. And today, we live in a very collaborative world. There's already a mention of super app. I mean, there's a development of super app happening, at Muthoot. Collaboration has been, something that's been discussed over the last few years, and that's really going to take center stage going forward. We have, as a company, we power the trading accounts of a few banks in India. But that is largely a very deep, tech integration. Whereas tomorrow there could be a world where, as I think Mr. V.K. Matthews mentioned this morning, an airline's inventory is just the seat, but customer expectations are much more. So now the airline has to offer all the other products using collaboration. So same way, tomorrow, somebody investing in through our platform possibly could be a potential gold loan client, and could avail, gold loan or even invest in NCDs through our own platform, although our product is not, are not those products, and vice versa. So it's going to be a very interesting future of finance.
No, great point, Jones. So before, I'm just actually coming to you only, Mr. Ramurthy. And whilst you make the point, one question for you, a bit of a controversial question for you. And with this, then we'll go into closing comments. Do you feel the future is fin-tech or tech-fin? And why this is because anybody can get a lending license, a payment license, a deposit license, but a tech player can also take it. And that's a trend in Europe. If you see bank charters, the way they've been taken by many companies.
So on a funny note, next time in a panel, I should be very careful with the moderator as a lawyer. This is out of the syllabus, this question. So I just took the mic to make a point. I want to thank Thomas for bringing up Bajaj Finserv. It reminds me of a quote by the COO, forgot his name, Chief Operating Officer. So Bajaj Finserv was built on AWS, and they were the early adopters. They built it in such a scalable, highly available model. In 2016, when he came to one of our conferences, he made the statement that I can never forget. He said, we adopted cloud when it was a bad word. Right? Today, no one fears adopting cloud. The thing is, today they're a gold standard that everyone wants to aspire for. But he had the foresight. At that time, it was still like everyone was like not ready to invest in cloud. So I think when we're talking 5 years, 10 years from now, but what are we doing today? Ali said today's competitor may not be tomorrow's, right? There's going to be one more disruptor, one more kind of fintech. So my view on fintech is this, right? I work with a lot of fintechs, insurtechs, not directly, but who are enablers for my customers, who help provide niche solutions. See, there is a fear. There is a fintech who's coming with such a niche solution that, in fact, if he were to get a license, what would differentiate him from an NBFC or anyone, right? I'm not, and what I see is NBFCs and Muthoot is an example, right? They went and like acquired a very good startup, right? NBFCs need to do two things, in my opinion, that I've seen it happening. Either partner with startups or acquire them and bring in that culture. Because if you talked about, I can't convert an ambassador to a BMW. Exactly. It's a mindset issue. It's a change management issue. Please build a separate team. We tell our customers, please create a separate team. Give them the empowerment. For powering on every server, you ask them to go through the bureaucratic hassles of every single resource. The existing IT team, no offense meant, you cannot innovate. So create a separate unit, and that can be a fintech within an enterprise, right? That's the model I see is successful. Otherwise, fintechs are going to be a real threat. I mean, it's a strong word, but
which means the future is TechFin, is what you're saying. Closing observations, any wish list, anything regulators need to be mindful of in no particular order?
No, like I said earlier, ideally, if you need more participation in, if you look at our market, it's on participation. If we need to get more participants, a regulator needs to think from the perspective of a customer. Try to make an investment on their own or try opening an account on their own. They'll probably get to realize what are the hassles a customer has to go through. Especially now, the government itself has done so much, on digital and brought in, huge amount of data online. So to a certain extent, there is a lot of risk that is actually mitigated just because, government has been very innovative. So regulators should also think from, along those lines and maybe put itself in the shoes of a customer. And I think, it's going to be a fantastic future. I'm really excited for the future of finance. There's no doubt, we will have massive opportunities.
I think Jones pointed out the fact that, the government has done so many things. There are so many ONDCs, one other real innovation which is coming, which could even disrupt some of the bigger, Amazons and Flipkarts of the world, or the Walmarts of the world. But that's how you are opening up the entire nation to become one big store for anything under the sun. Basically, starting with soap to finance, water, whatever you want in one place. And that's where you see a lot of these, there is a question of monopoly and duopoly and all that. But that's where, when the market is so open, that's where you see, like earlier we said, multiple new business models which will come out. And more importantly, everybody should be relevant and to the point. See, I think Karthik has pointed out the fact that there are fintechs which are coming with niche products, but can they integrate it to a larger NBFC is a question to be answered, because they may have legacy constraints. I'm not saying that the legacy institution may not be capable of holding something like One Muthoot, hence we are separated and become our own unit. No, there should be a revolution on the other side of things as well, where the management also has to think in a way that, that amalgamation has to happen. And so what we have tried to do is that whatever we are trying to do at One Muthoot is also dictated back to the legacy business, so that they are also ready to see change which is coming up. So that's very important. I think, and to end the conversation, I think future of finance should also look at what is beyond currency. What could be beyond currency. And as a gold on player, I would say there is a rising need or rising impact of digital gold which is coming up.
Yes.
Both ETFs and other physical digital golds, which is a rising business. And obviously, I think, looking very futuristic, I may sound Elon Musk-ish, that time also could be a currency in the future, right? It's a maybe for the next convention it should be answered to. And it's going to become really important that time could also be used as a currency.
Can't rest on laurels, founders mentality always, keep disrupting.
Well, the miracle happens when you start thinking unconventional. And that's what I have seen when in 2008, the regulator RBI mandated the second factor authentication through OTP for every transaction you do. The world, especially the Western world, laughed at us that these people do not have tele-density, they do not have mobile penetration, they do not have last mile connectivity. How are you going to succeed this model? And there's a power of conviction, there's a power of the regulatory mindset that yes, we will. And today, the same world is at the doorstep of India asking, can we implement this technology in our country? That is where the revolution starts. And when especially we are talking about the future of finance and thankfully the way the current regime thinking towards the fintech or technology driven, because see, it is not too far to go. Look at the JAM Trinity, Jandar, Aadhaar and mobile. How miracle has happened with DBT or UPI? Let's say for example, how many fintech evolved in last 6 years. I think we are the largest unicorn producing country ever in the world. And coming future, I believe the finance will go beyond, I mean the banking will go beyond finance. It is going to make a lot of, the use of technology because again, the technology, in my own language, I believe that it is a churning of technology in the ocean because and it is a double-sided edge. I mean, there will be good part, there will be bad part, the cybersecurity concern, which we are anyway seeing. But if this kind of, churning continue to happen for next 5, 6, 10 years, we will have meta, we will have Web 3.0, we will have, blockchain, whatnot. And on top of that, we as a country, the economy, scale of economy, what we have, that's a fabulous thing what this country possesses. And in my view, the next revolution by 2031 would be much bigger than the revolution what we have seen in 2001 and 2011, what we did at NPCI and UPI.
So, in AWS, what we are seeing is the penetration of tech in financial it's at a much early stage, right? It was an early adopter curve. Now it's getting into mass adoption, and I can't reveal our growth rates, but it's phenomenal. The adoption of cloud, and it's happening at different levels. It's happening at a base, just a migration. Let me use the power of compute. Let me give a low latency, high throughput, and all that. The massive investments are happening in app modernization, data analytics, machine learning, and all that. So I see this is just going to grow. I see no end to this, and I don't have the numbers. You all have numbers better, right? The vast population is still not banked. There's so much you can do. So me being in the financial sector, in the technology business, I'm completely upbeat, and I'm going to stick around for quite a while in this business for sure. Right?
So my learning from this 1 hour is the parties across the bench will remain the same, but the bench will keep changing, i.e. the bank. On that note, thank you so much. Real pleasure. And thank you to the entire audience and the KMA, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for that enthralling session that we had. The fireside chat we witnessed today on the role of next generation communication in the financial sector has left us all truly spellbound. To honor this panel, may I request the entire executive committee of the Kerala Management Association to be on stage. Starting with the President, Madam President Nirmala Lilly, Senior Vice President A. Balakrishnan, Vice President Bibu Punuran, Honorary Secretary Algiers Khalid, Honorary Joint Secretary Mr. Dilip Narayanan, and Honorary Treasurer Mr. Johnson Matthew. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and keep the applause going for this exemplary panel. Mr. Kartikeyan Naramamurthy, Mr. Jones George, Mr. Thomas Muthu John, Dr. Bharat Panchal, and the moderator, Mr. Anu Tiwari. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for the moderator, Mr. Anu Tiwari.
Sometimes in water, there is the sound, which is what we have found to be somewhat like.
And please keep the applause going.
With the correct color of black Kool-Aid. Perfect and perfect. No similarity. No similarity. No similarity. No similarity.
Requesting the executive committee to kindly stay back on stage while the panelists can join us in the audience.
Thank you, thank you. I request all executive members to please stay back for a photograph. Yeah, come. I also request our executive director, Lieutenant Jojo Jacob, and Prajit, and thank you, Mr. ABK, we call him, Mr. A. Balakrishnan, for presenting this incredible conference. Is it an incredible conference, yes or no? Yes? Yes? Thank you. Credit goes to all of you. Thank you for all your support. Before the electrifying vote of thanks, I thought of let me just thank the executive committee and the office. They've been toiling for the past 2 months, and I want to present a memento to our convention chair for his incredible performance. And yes, let me just read it out. Congratulations, Mr. ABK, Mr. A. Balakrishnan, for organizing an incredible 40th KMA Annual National Management Convention at the Grand Hyatt, Kochi. Your contribution has been invaluable. Thank you.
A bigger round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, as they truly deserve this honor, as this clearly was and is a convention that we'll remember for a very long time. Thank you, ma'am. Next, to propose the vote of thanks, we have the founder and the honor of...
Neil, one second.
No, let me thank all MC members and fundamentally all the sponsors. Without their help, this would not have happened, because it is actually indeed a big step. It's a very expensive conference, and thank you for the support and thank you for the cooperation. I still find, even at 5 o'clock, most of the delegates are here. Thank you very much.
Now, to propose the vote of thanks, we have the founder and owner of Puvat International, the honorary secretary of the Kerala Management Association, Mr. Algiers Khalid.
To the formal vote of thanks, distinguished dignitaries in the audience, accomplished ladies and gentlemen, emerging future leaders in management. Finally, we are at the culmination of a memorable 40th KMA Management National Management Convention, and it is my turn to thank you all for making this annual convention a great success and also a trendsetter for eminence in the speakers, quality of content, participation of delegates, record registration, and finally, an international ambience. Perhaps the best and the largest management meet in the country. Please give a loud applause to yourself for being part of this great event. That's not enough. KMA is on social media. Please visit KMA's website, KMA's pages in Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and please like, share, and comment all about this convention. Now, I must specially thank all those who made day 2 of the convention even more exciting and memorable. Let me at the outset thank today's keynote speakers. In the first session, we had excellent address by Mr. Mukund Rajan, Chairman eCube Investment. It was indeed very enthralling that set the stage on fire to start the day. I would like to thank him for flying in all the way from Mumbai to be here with us and address on the important topic, the responsible business of the future and the importance of ESG. Second session was equally fascinating and kept everyone on the edge of our respective seats. The address by our keynote speaker, Mr. Beji George, CMD of HLL Lifecare, on how technology is going to change healthcare was indeed an eye-opener for all of us and highly informative and purposeful. I thank him for sharing his thoughts. Session 3 was yet another mind-blowing session by Mr. Suman Billa, IAS, Principal Secretary Industries in Norca, on envisaging industry in Kerala. His address was indeed music to the ears for all of us and the professional management fraternity in Kerala, and also for all the proud Malayali among us. Thank you very much, sir. Big thanks to Mr. V.K. Matthew, founder of Executive Chairman, IBS Software, who enlightened us on the most important aspects of management in today's context, who are leading in digital world. It was truly fascinating. I'm sure all those who attended today will go back enriched and will gear up to lead in today's digital world. We are grateful to him. The final panel discussion on the role of next generation communication in manufacturing, moderated by Dr. Shankar Venkatramani, Partner Business Excellence Practice, KPMG, kept the audience fully engaged for an hour. We were fortunate to have eminent panelists from diverse industries. All panelists shared a wealth of knowledge and in manufacturing, starting with our own managing committee member, Mr. K. Harikumar, Managing Director of 2 major public sector undertakings in Kerala, TCC and Malabar Cements. Then Mr. Ajit Kumar, Executive Director of BPCL Kochi, and Mr. Venkatramani Anand, Chief Executive and Full-Time Director of Harrison Malayalam. It was simply superb. I thank you all for accepting our invitation and sharing your valuable experience in the manufacturing and thoughts on how faster connectivity will impact manufacturing. The second panel discussion on healthcare, moderated by Dr. Avinash Nani Wadekar, Cluster CEO of KIMS Health, was really outstanding. Thank you, sir, for coming all the way from Trivandrum and moderating that interesting session with panelists, Mr. Binu Matthew, Plant Head Agape Diagnostics Limited, and Ms. Maria Lal, Sales Leader, Breakthrough Initiatives of Honeywell, and Mr. Arvind Raman, Solution Data and AI Microsoft. All of you individually and collectively contributed so well to make the session interesting and also gave us a deep understanding of what is in store for healthcare with the advent of new generation communication technology. And finally, the fireside chat on the role of the next generation communication technology in financial services, moderated by Mr. Anu Tiwari, co-head FinTech Corporation M&A, was simply outstanding. Thank you so nicely engaging all the four eminent panelists, Dr. Bharat Panchal, CRO, Discover Financial Services and Architect of Digital Risk Management, Mr. Thomas Mutooth John, Head Strategy, One Mutooth, Mr. Johns George, Executive Director, Geojit Financial Services, and Mr. Karthik Ramamurthy, Enterprise Business Development, AWS. All of you together beautifully articulated the impact of next generation communication technology in the financial service industry. Thank you all. I must especially thank President Nirmala Lilly and Senior Vice President and Chairman of the convention, Mr. A. Balakrishnan, and all the managing committee members for planning and executing the convention so well. Special thanks to all those who introduced the speakers of various sessions, starting with Vice President Mr. Bibu Punaran, Joint Secretary Mr. Dilip Narayan, Past President Mr. Jibu Paul and Mr. Vivek Krishna Govind, Managing Committee members Mr. A.C.K. Nair, Dr. Anil Joseph, and Mr. Sunil Balakrishnan. A big thanks to all of you, my friends. I thank all the media personnel from the print and the television present here today to report on this 40th National Management Convention. Thanks also for that excellent coverage of yesterday's inauguration in all major media. There are many individuals and organizations who needs to be profusely thanked for volunteering to back us in our earnest effort to showcase the best for our members. I will be failing in my duty if I don't mention their valuable contribution for what you have witnessed yesterday and today. Thank you. Mr. Karthik Ramamurthy, Head of Business, AWS South, Commander Jim Matthew, CEO of Star One IT, Mr. Ramesh, KP of Fortinet, Mr. Ranjit RG, Associate Director of Geojit Financial Services, Mr. Bala Aditya Karsa Abada, Director of Services Middle East and India of Software One, and a very special thanks to KMA Past President Dr. Ravindranath P, who connected us to ISRO Chairman. Thanks to all the large-hearted sponsors without whom this would not have been possible. Thank you, AWS Software One, Platinum Partner, Diamond Partner, Unimoney and Asset Homes, Gold Partner, Aptiv, V-Guard Group, Star One, Federal Bank, HDFC Life, ICICI Prudential. Banking Partners, Organic BPS, Academic Partners, SCMS and Rajagiri Institutions, Visual Media Partner, Asianet News, and Diagnostic Partner, Medivision. And I also thank Wonderla for the small gift for tickets for the Wonderla as a gift, a lucky draw. Supporting partners, BPCL, Aditya Birla Mutual Fund, Tata Capital Mutual Fund, ICICI Mutual Fund, Cochin International Airport, Wonderla, Axel IT, SC Mentor, Netcore Cloud, Bank of Baroda, Mental Networks, and Abro Group. Thank you all, and looking forward to your continued patronage and association with KMA, the largest and the best management association in the country. Finally, on behalf of President Nirmala, Chairman A. Balakrishnan, and all the members of KMA, a big thank you. To all the registered delegates, management students, volunteers, today's Master of Ceremony, Neen Gonzalez, event managers, Rajesh and Team Ergo, management and staff of Lulu Grand Hyatt Bolgati Convention Center. Secretary team members, Lieutenant Jojo Jacob, Mohan Krishnan and Prajit. Without all of you, this would not have been possible. Thank you one and all. Have a great evening. Before I conclude, I would like to invite our sponsors, AWS Software, Unimoney, Asset Homes, Aptiv, and Star One, and Wonderla on the stage to be recognized.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we hear it for all our sponsors? A round of applause, please. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, we have heard it loud and clear. The next generation of communication is definitely going to revolutionize the way we live. There has been a plethora of information and knowledge sharing that we have witnessed for the past 2 days, and we hope it equips you to drive you further. Once again, thank you to all our sponsors. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The meeting is hereby adjourned for tea and networking. Wishing you a great and prosperous year ahead. Thank you.